What if I told you that the most disconnected and lowest grossing Fast and Furious movie is secretly its most vital organ? And no, I have not been sniffing too much nitrous. I'm talking about the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. But we shouldn't exactly call a time of death. Instead, let's give credit where it's due. This movie has some of the most face-melting, influential racing in the entire franchise. It brought drifting to the mainstream, took us into the world of Japanese car culture, and introduced us to the king of cool, the prince of snacks, Han Lue, a character so legendary that producers literally had to perform a narrative resuscitation just to keep him in the movies. But for all that style, the narrative chassis is severely damaged. The story is a clinical mess, anemic, confusing, and suffering from a severe case of who are these people again? The vital signs are flat, the protagonist has the personality of a damp paper towel, and Han's iconic death is narratively a random, tragic aneurysm. It serves no purpose. And today we're scrubbing in. Because this film's condition required more than a simple timeline adjustment, it needed a complete narrative heart transplant. With just a few surgical incisions, Tokyo Drift could have been transformed from the franchise's malformed appendage into its narrative backbone. But first, we must examine the patient's medical history. To diagnose what went wrong with Tokyo Drift, we first need to examine the franchise's existing DNA. Film number 1, The Fast and the Furious, gave us our core duo, Dominic Toretto, the patriarch of a street racing crew who lives his life a quarter mile at a time, and Brian O'Connor, the undercover cop who becomes part of the family he's supposed to bust. It was all about loyalty, honor among thieves, and of course, family. Then came Too Fast, Too Furious, where Dom is gone and Brian teams up with Roman Pierce in Miami. The first two films, for all their differences, were still built around Brian's story. Then in 2006, Tokyo Drift drops, and it's like the studio threw a dart at a map. No Dom, until the last act. No Brian. Just a random kid named Sean Boswell getting sent to Japan. This created two critical fractures that compromised the film's structural integrity. First, the timeline, which for years showed severe symptoms, held together by narrative duct tape and Vin Diesel's sheer willpower. Han dies in a fiery crash, right? But then he pops up in the next 3 movies, Fast and Furious, Fast 5, and Fast and Furious 6, alive, well, and snacking. It wasn't until the end of Fast 6 that a retcon revealed his accident was actually a targeted killing by Deckard Shaw. This retroactively made movies 4, 5, and 6 prequels, jamming Tokyo Drift between Fast 6 and Furious 7. It was a clever suitor, but it doesn't heal the underlying condition that left the movie itself narratively adrift. But the more severe pathology, the one a post-credit scene can't medicate, is the emotional disconnect. Our protagonist, Sean Boswell, is a classic fish out of water, but his character chart is flat. He's not that interesting. His motivation doesn't get much deeper than, I want to win the race and impress the girl. Alright. Gloves. Surgery time. So what's our prescription? Well, this surgical procedure has 2 aspects. Number 1, graft Dom's crew into the story's DNA from the very beginning. Second, inject a powerful thematic serum, the destructive pathology of selfishness versus the restorative power of sacrifice. We're not just resetting a dislocated timeline, we're performing a procedure that makes this film the new heart of the entire saga. Our repaired story would still begin with Sean Boswell, a talented but reckless driver. This time though, his final race in the US doesn't just get him in trouble with the law. Let's have his recklessness accidentally blow up a low-level smuggling operation belonging to Dominic Toretto's extended network. Whoops. Now he's sent to Tokyo not just to live with his dad, but to work for a man named Han to pay off his massive debt. This immediately forges a vital connection, grafting the story directly onto the main franchise body. Now we clearly see Han as not a random drifter, but rather a vital part of Dom's system, the nerve center for the crew's entire operation in Asia, and he is not happy about babysitting the chaotic American intern who just cost the business a fortune. The tension is immediate. Han sees Sean as a chronic condition, a walking symptom of a past recklessness he's tried to excise. So just like in Tokyo Drift, Sean gets thrown into the drift world and is humiliated by Takashi, the Drift King. But in this rewritten version, the stakes are sky high. He didn't just wreck a stranger's car, he wrecked a car belonging to the Toretto crew, sinking him deeper into debt and earning Han's fury. He's forced to become Han's errand boy, learning discipline not just behind the wheel, but in the garage. He's not just learning to drift, he's undergoing a forced treatment for his own ego. This is where we diagnose the core pathology, selfishness. Sean starts making progress, but his ambition is still all about him. During a high-stakes drift meet, Sean disobeys Han's direct orders to lay low and makes a flashy, arrogant move. This draws the unwanted attention of Takashi and his Yakuza uncle, Kamata. This selfish act brings the story's fever to a crisis point. In the pivotal scene, Han finally explains why he's so hard on Sean. He confesses he's in a self-imposed quarantine in Tokyo because of his own past selfishness, a job for Dom that went bad because he got greedy. This perfectly explains what Han was doing between the heist of the main franchise and his appearance in Tokyo. He was rebuilding Dom's trust. This perfectly explains what Han was doing between the heist of the main franchise and his appearance in Tokyo. He was rebuilding Dom's trust. He sees the same sickness in Sean that nearly destroyed him, and has a terrifying relapse. Han's motto, "Life's simple, you make choices and you don't look back," is no longer a carefree philosophy. It's a scar tissue of a man living with the consequences of his own ego. Meanwhile, this reinforces what we see in Fast and Furious 4 and Fast 5. When Han shows up with cash and connections to help Dom, it no longer feels random, it feels earned. We'd also transplant a subplot here. Letty and Han are secretly communicating, tracking a virus in their network, a ghost operative hitting their outposts, a killer we'll later know as Deckard Shaw. The Yakuza plot also heats up as Takashi, now suspicious, discovers Han has been skimming from their operations. This all brings us to the critical phase of this operation, the Shibuya Crossing chase. But now, they're not just running from Takashi, they're being hunted by Shaw, the infection made manifest. Han diagnoses the situation. This isn't random. He is the target. In our procedure, his death becomes a conscious choice, a surgical amputation. Over the radio, in a final message to Sean, he makes his sacrifice. "It was never about the money, kid," Han says. "It's about who's in your corner. Get this to Dom. Don't make the same mistakes I did." He then deliberately steers his car into the path of Shaw's, excising himself to save the system. Han's death is no longer a random narrative aneurysm. It's the ultimate act of selflessness. He completes his redemptive arc, finding the cure for his past by saving the kid who was a living symptom of his own flaws. The final race against Takashi is no longer just for glory, it's to honor Han's sacrifice and protect the territory for Dom's family. When Sean wins, he becomes the new guardian of Tokyo. That brings us to our tweaked final scene. Dom Toretto's arrival is no longer narrative first aid, it's the specialist arriving to check on the patient. He's there because he got Sean's message. He has to come to meet the kid for whom his brother performed the ultimate organ donation. As they line up, the race isn't a challenge, it's a final checkup. It's the head surgeon welcoming the most unlikely new resident into the family. And with this procedure complete, Tokyo Drift is transformed. It's no longer a rejected organ, but a vital, load-bearing part of the Fast saga's anatomy. Han's death now has a function, a legendary, heroic sacrifice. Sean Boswell is no longer an empty vessel, but a fully realized character who undergoes a successful treatment, moving from chronic selfishness to a healthy understanding of family and sacrifice. The incredible racing sequences now have a pulse. Every turn is charged with emotional purpose. The film becomes the perfect connective tissue, setting the stage for the war with Deckard Shaw, while telling a powerful, self-contained story. It earns its place, not as a strange mutation, but as the very soul of the entire series. But that's our prescription. What do you think of our procedure on Tokyo Drift? Would these changes have given it a clean bill of health? Or was our diagnosis completely off? What's your perfect version? Let us know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this rewrite, do us a favor and power slide onto that subscribe button for more. Thanks for watching.